Hey guys, Sean Terry here, flip2freedom.com. Hope you're doing well. All right, in this video, I am going to answer questions from our members and also some of our mastermind members. So they submitted questions. We have a private Discord channel for all of our members and our mastermind members. And it's an Ask Sean channel, and they put their questions in there, and I'll either answer them when I'm running around doing whatever, or I'll come in here and we'll take those questions and I'll shoot a video. And the cool thing is the YouTube community gets to hear the answer to these questions as well. Now, below, all the questions will be timestamped. So the question will be typed out and it'll be timestamped, so you can click right to it and be able to get the answer to the specific question that was asked. So we're going to get into it, and we're going to talk about that. So if you could do me a favor, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, it would really help the algorithm also too, so you don't miss any of our videos that we're talking about. And we're going to cover a whole bunch of, from PPC to novations to leads per deal to all sorts of different stuff. They're coming from all of our members on here, and there's a handful of questions on here that I'll be able to answer for you guys. So let's get into it.
Can't take no loss, yeah. I don't even know what it costs, yeah. I hit the ground and it go off, yeah. Hit the ground and it go off, yeah. Run it, ooh. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my
All right, so questions. These are questions, and I love questions because it brings in a whole bunch of conversation. So let's do the first one right here. And the first question is from Rise of Phoenix, and it's, how do you figure out leads per deal for each of your reps? And that's the first question. How many leads are given each month compared to how many deals they are getting each month? So each rep is completely different. So what we do is we do our marketing, and we have different marketing channels. So we'll have Google AdWords, we have Bing, we have direct mail, we have Need to Sell My House Fast, and TV. Now, TV, we haven't initiated yet, but we will very soon. But primarily, those are the 5 main lead sources that we can get tons of leads in. Now, what we do is allocate those leads. They all come in, and they come in not on a round robin, but it's first come, first serve. So if a rep is open, we want to have a speed to lead. So what we want to do is have the phone ring, and whoever is open gets that phone call. They have a voice-to-voice conversation with that lead, and then that becomes their lead. If a lead has a form fill submission, then they form fill it. The lead populates in our CRM. We use Freedom Logic. And what happens is now, they have it in the CRM and everybody's on the CRM. What they'll do is they'll grab that lead, and now they have to have a voice to voice to essentially keep that lead in their book of business. Now, a voice to voice means they have to have a conversation with that seller. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to have someone go through and cherry pick all the leads, pull them in their book of business, and then that's not playing fair. We actually fired someone over doing that. We gave them a warning. They continued to do it, and then we had to fire them. So what you want to do is have a voice to voice. So your question is, how do you figure out leads per deal? Because what we're doing is now they're taking X amount of leads in their business, and what they're doing is tagging their name in Freedom Logic. They can put their name on it, and now we can see how many leads that they're getting on a weekly/monthly basis. Now, from a company perspective, our goal is to give them 20 leads every single week. If we give them 20 leads every single week, they should get 1 to 2 contracts a week, because they have follow-up leads they're working on, and they have the new leads they're working on as well. So you have your hot follow-ups, and then the new leads you're working on. That will give you the ability to get 1 to 2 contracts a week, and their quota is to get minimum of $50,000 in revenue weekly that they can go out and hit. So that is essentially how we do it. We track each individual rep. The most important number that we look at with the reps is their leads per contract. Now, I can tell you we have a one of our mastermind members in Deal Syndicate, not Deal Syndicate, Six Figure Syndicate Mastermind, and he has several people that are acquisition reps on his team, and he has two of them that are converting leads at 1 in 19 leads per contract, and he has two other reps that are converting 1 in 45 and 1 in 65 leads per contract. Now, from a business perspective, and you're generating leads and spending $80 to $100 a lead, who would you want those leads to go to? Someone that converts 1 in 19 leads a contract or 1 in 65 leads a contract? That's why you have to track it on a per rep basis, because it's critically important to the bottom line. So 30 is the number that you want to be under. 30 or under is better. Anything over 30 leads per contract, then overall profitability of the company becomes very difficult to keep your company actually profitable. You're going to be pushing yourself down to a sub 10% profit margin if you're over 50 leads a deal. I can tell you, if you spend over $100 per contract, you're at 65 leads per deal, then, and you have a rep that's converting 65 leads per deal, and their average deal size, now a good number is around 25 to 30,000, anything under that, again, it's going to be pressure. If their average deal size is say $10,000 to $12,000, they're converting 1 in 65, and your cost per lead is $100 plus, you have no profit. You're not making any money. I can tell you that right now. If you give me your numbers, you show me your numbers, and those are your numbers, I could tell you you're making no money. You're going to be doing deals, right? But you're not going to have any profit. And that's not what you want to do in this business. So that's for Rising Phoenix. Hope that helped. Next question. Is, this is from Policy, is what is a novation agreement and when do you use it? Now, so in wholesaling, you have a contract with the seller, right? We call that an A-B contract, where A and then B is the seller, right? A-B contract. And then we get a contract with our buyer, and it's a BC contract. Actually, it's A seller, B us, C seller. That's how it should be done. Anyway, so that's typically what happens in a wholesale transaction. And then you can double escrow, or you can assign your contract to the buyer. Now, with a novation agreement, that's when we get an offer. We list it on the MLS. We get an offer from an agent, and the agent has their buyer using a conventional loan. A conventional loan, FHA loan, VA loan, whatever the case may be, they're using that type of conventional financing, and it's not cash, hard money, or a private lender. It's conventional financing. Now, with conventional financing, you cannot do basically a double escrow or an assignment, because when they do the underwriting, the lenders do the underwriting, they're going to see a break in the chain of title. So what's a break in the chain of title? That means you have the seller who's on title. Then there's you with your contract. That's the break, because you're nowhere to be found. And then there's the buyer. So when you're doing conventional financing, it has to go directly from the owner of record directly to the buyer. And the problem is you're in between. How do you get paid? That's where a novation comes involved in what's called a notice of interest. So what we do is novation, which means novate the contract. So you replace your AB contract with your seller with the contract between the buyer contract and now the seller, and now they're basically connected. So you're basically bringing the two together, and you're replacing your contract. So how do you get paid? By filing what's called a notice of interest. Full disclosure to the seller, full disclosure to the buyer, full disclosure to the title company. Everybody knows what's going on. And you file a notice of interest. And the notice of interest paid amount that you get paid on is the difference between your contract with the seller, your A to B contract that you novated, replaced, and the buy price from your buyer. So let's say theoretically you have a price with your seller at 250 and you have a price with your buyer at 270, then that difference minus any fees or closing costs is going to be 20,000 less fees. Let's call it 5,000 fees, $15,000. And that essentially is how you would get paid directly off the HUD. All right. All right. So the next one is, next one we have is, do you do 100% PPC leads or do you do other forms of marketing? This is from Georgia Peach, who is one of our Flip to Freedom Academy members. All right. One of our Bear Market Million members, actually. So we do multiple different channels. So we do Google, we do Bing, we do like need to sell my house fast. We do direct mail, and we will be doing TV advertising. So we'll do multiple different channels of marketing because I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. I want to have multiple different channels. I want to have numbers for all the channels. So we know how much we spent, how many leads we generated, what our leads per contract is, what our average cost per lead is, what our average cost per deal is for each channel. And then we can determine which channels we want to spend most of the money on, where we're getting the best results. All right. Next question. In my contract, I could write, this agreement will be governed by the laws of Kentucky, even if the property is located in another state. In Sean's contract, it says governing law, this agreement shall be interpreted in accordance with the laws of the state of whatever. That's a really good question. And I do not know the answer to that question other than we put the state of Arizona on there, that it's in Arizona. Now, some people say that if you are transacting in, let's say, Georgia, then it's the governing law of Georgia, meaning if there's a dispute, you'd have to get an attorney in Georgia, which makes sense. Now, I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice. So Matt is part of our six-figure syndicate group. We can talk about that offline, but I highly recommend you seek the advice of an actual attorney, and that attorney can tell you and direct you exactly how to do it. Now, I know for properties in Arizona, we put Arizona on there, and for other states, we put the other state in that we are doing business in. All right, next question from Robert Brown. Sean, what is the minimum PPC budget you suggest to start a campaign? Now, a great starter campaign, Robert, is $25 a day. Now, it's interesting. I just met with Ethan, who managed PPC campaigns for students, right? People have say, hey, listen, can you set it up for me? Well, Ethan will do that. Can you manage it for me? Ethan will do that. So I had a call with him this morning, just talking about strategy and stuff like that. And we talked about expectations that someone has when they're starting a campaign. Now, if you look at the perfect campaign, there's boxes that need to be checked to have a perfect campaign. And you got to look at, for expectation, how many actual boxes are you checking in that perfect campaign, and what it will take to get all those boxes checked. So what's the boxes? Well, the first box, number one, is the seasoned account, meaning what is the age of your account? That makes a difference in your Google AdWords campaign. Think about it. Google is a relationship with you, and you're a business. You start a campaign tomorrow and you want to start doing business on them. They don't know who you are. You don't have a history with them. So what they're going to do is they're going to throttle your campaign until you build a relationship with them. You have a good payment history. You're not getting complaints or anything like that. So they're going to throttle for the first 90 days. You're going to have a little bit of throttling going on there, and they're learning you as you're learning them in the business. So the first checkbox is your history, your seasoning of your campaign. The next checkbox is your payment history. Do you have your card declined all the time with Google? If you do, your campaign shuts off and then it turns back on, it shuts off. And guess what? That impacts performance on the campaign. So make sure you don't have any declined payments on your campaign, because it impacts the overall performance of the campaign. The other thing too is campaign structure makes the entire difference. I have a course called PPC Secrets, and we talk about the campaign structure. Having the campaign structure done correctly is critically important. Knowing what keywords to use, knowing how to structure your ad groups in your ads, how you target those specific ad groups in the settings you have is critical. And if you do all that right, boom, that will check that box. Boom, I'll check that next box. The other thing too is another checkbox to have a highly performing campaign is how many actual conversions that you have. Now we use a maximized conversion bidding strategy within Google. So how many conversions do you have? Because what they do is they take all that conversion data and they find like people out in the universe that are searching sell my house fast, and they're going to match with similar conversion because they have all the data on everybody. And then they're going to tee up that ad, your ad, to them right at the right time, and it's going to turn into a conversion. So the more conversions you have in your account, the better your account. The minimum is 100, okay? You have to have 100 conversions, then you start seeing better performance. Over 100, obviously, the more, the better. So those are the boxes that you can check. That is in Google. Now we turn and flip the coin and talk about you. We just talked about earlier about leads per contract. You have some certain individual that does 1 in 19 leads per contract and someone else that does 1 in 65. So if you have a great campaigns and you have some of the boxes checked and you're getting leads and all of a sudden you're not converting them, it's not Google, it's you, right? So we got to work on ourselves and get better and better at converting deals over the phone. Now, if I take those leads and I give it to someone that converts 1 in 19 or give those leads that converts 1 in 65, and you ask those two people, does Google work? One of them is going to say no, and the other one's going to say, oh my gosh, it's incredible. And it has nothing to do with the leads, it has everything to do with the person. So I hope that helps. All right. Next question. This is from Joseph, and he is a Syndicate 9 member. Sean, do you offer your sales reps a salary plus commission? And are they on commission only? What is their pay structure? Thank you. Okay. Actually, he had two questions, so I'll answer the other questions here in a second. So for pay structure, we offer them $2,000 a month. And they get 8% commission off a deal. So $2,000 a month, which is not a lot, and they get 8% commission. But we provide the leads, and we provide 20 leads a week for them. They have 2 weeks of training, and then after 2 weeks of training, they go live. And within those training periods, they're going to make actual live calls to sellers in our database. We call them a free-for-all campaign. Those are all the leads we have in our database. There's about, at the time, right now, we have 3,000 or 4,000 of them. So they're going to cut their teeth on the leads, start making calls, getting comfortable talking to sellers. Then they're going to go through the training, Deal Conversion Pro. They're going to learn all about that. Escape plan, if they don't really know about real estate, we try to find someone that knows about real estate and has phone experience. But they're going to go through 2 weeks of training. After the 2 weeks of training, then they're going to go live and they're going to start getting leads. And then we're going to start actually tracking their numbers. Now, what we're going to do is after that week, we're going to listen to calls and see what their performance numbers are. And if their numbers aren't where we need them to be, under 30 leads per deal, then what we're going to do is put them on a performance plan, and we're going to listen to their calls. We're going to give them one suggestion that they can work on. The highest level suggestion is going to make the most impact to make a difference in their performance. We're going to have them implement that one suggestion in a week, and then we're going to come back. We're going to listen to the calls, make sure they actually implemented it. If they didn't, then guess what? We're going to have them implement it again until they actually can do it. Now, some people are not teachable and don't know how to take action on coaching. That is a problem. If they don't, that does not work for us, and they won't be able to move forward in what we do. So I've hired people on a Monday and fired them on a Tuesday. I've hired someone, and then after a 2-week training, guess what? They just didn't put forth the effort. I ask them one thing to do, they don't do it, and guess what? Fired. We don't have time to deal with mediocrity. We are looking for elite performers in our business, and you got to come out of the gate strong. And if you don't, there's the door, right? So it's 2,000 plus 8%, because if I'm providing the leads and they're $100, 2,020 a week, now I'm spending $2,000 a week or $10,000 a month to give them leads. So they can, obviously produce revenue for them and for the company. So we hired a guy first month out of the gate, did $455,000 in revenue. His commission, $455,000 in revenue, is times 8% is $36,000, $36,400 plus his $2,000. So first month out of the gate, well, it won't be first month because he's going to close them in about 45 days. $38,000 for the month on leads I provided. That's a performer. He's averaging about 19 leads per deal. All right. His other question was, Joseph's other question was, Sean, do you run Need to Sell My House Fast and your own PPC at the same time? And yes, we have Need to Sell My House Fast, and we have our PPC campaigns as well. All right, here's from Larry, and Larry's question is, when a seller asks for proof of funds, how would I present that? I keep having sellers ask me to present that because they think I am scamming them. This is quite infuriating, Larry. Okay, so first off, I can tell you, we never get asked for proof of funds, ever. I don't think I provided a proof of funds. It's been 2 years, right? The only time I do a proof of funds, if I'm buying like I buy a big $12 million apartment complex, we got to provide a proof of funds, right? But when we're doing houses on these things, we've never, ever provided a proof of funds. And it's been years since we've done it. So if we're doing deals in my team and we're getting calls and talking to sellers and we're getting, 400 to 500 leads a month coming in every single month. We got our team out there cranking, and no one's asking us, is it us? Or is it you? So I personally think, Larry, it's you being not confident in your abilities, and it's portraying through on the phone call, which now people are questioning you. And then now they're going, well, do you have a proof of funds? Can you really buy this house? Now with us, we're getting on the phone. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Here's how we get things done. Here's what our number is. Here's what we expect to have going forward. This is what we need from you, Mr. Seller. And this is what we expect, right? And there's no question. It's direction, because we are the buyer. Here's the problem with the wholesaling business right now, is that with wholesaling, we are attempting to close a seller over the phone. It's backwards. It's almost like going to the car lot. And if you go to the car lot and you say, to the salesman, now I'm working with my daughter to find, she's going to buy, we bought her first car. She's going to trade it in. It's a Lincoln. And she's going to buy a Genesis, like GV70 or GV80, one of those cars for her, like first car. And she loves the Genesis. So we went to the car dealer this past weekend. Imagine us going to the car dealer, and now we're positioning the sales guy, and then we're going to close him to sell us a car. Right? You know what I mean? So we're trying to close him to sell us a car. It's backwards. So the best advice I can give you is that you are a buyer in a time when there's economic turmoil, right? Stock market's going down, real estate market's going down, right? The banking crisis, banks are collapsing, blah, 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 all this stuff. And you're now talking to them and say, yeah, I'll buy your house. And you're trying to close them on buying the house. When they're the seller, they should be selling you. So it's all about attitude. First off, two things. Number one, if you had $100 million in the bank, $100 million bucks, right? How would you act? You had $100 million bucks. You walked in, you're going to talk about, how would you act? You would want the right house. You be a reluctant, picky buyer. If you start acting like a reluctant, picky buyer, acting as if you had $100 million in the bank, guess what? No one's going to be asking you for a proof of funds. It's just the way it is. It's all attitude. All right. Now, next one. This is from Paul. He has a couple questions. First one is, if a check is cut to your LLC and a business account needed for tax purposes, or any bank can cash it? No. If you have a check cut to your LLC, home buyer LLC, you have to have a bank account associated with that LLC so you can deposit in the account, and then they'll turn it into funds. So you got to have a bank account within the LLC name, and you're going to also have a TIN. It's called actually EIN. It's your social security number for the LLC, so you can do taxes under that LLC. First question from Paul. Second question is from Paul. If the seller wants to close ASAP, what's the quickest it can be done? The fastest we have closed a deal is in a week, right? The fastest virtual nationwide deal closing it, is about 14 days on an assignment, and everything worked perfectly on a deal in Thornville, Ohio. We got for $40,000, sold for $68,000. We made $18,000 on the deal, and we literally got it under contract, and with literally 14 days later had the deal closed and money's wired. Actually, it was more than that. It was like $28,000. So, is that right? Yeah. So next one is, how do we know what type of housing market we're in? Okay, so that's an interesting. He goes, I like marketing housing stats like some of your videos. Is there one-stop shop for them all? Not really. The bottom line is, I can tell you, yes, there is. Yes, there's one chart you can look at that will determine if we are in a buyer's market or seller's market, and that is inventory. So search current housing inventory, FRED, F-R-E-D, and that is will show you basically inventory for the marketplace. So let me see if I can find it for you real quick under real estate data. If I look under actual housing data, if I go here real quick, this is the chart right here. So this right here is when inventory is super high, like it was here in 2008, we are in a buyer's market because there's more inventory. That means prices are less, right? And there are more sellers in the market and less buyers in the market. So if there's more sellers and less buyers, then it's a buyer's market. If there's more buyers and less sellers, like down here, remember in COVID right here? Remember that? There's no inventory. Everyone's freaking out. Oh, inventory, no inventory. Oh my gosh, there's no inventory. And there's tons of buyers because interest rates are so low. Now we're in a buyer's market. Houses get bid up and stuff like that. So look what's happened. Look what's happened to inventory right here. It's kind of gone up and it's come down a little bit, just like this. It's gone up, it came down a little bit, came up, came up. So we're going to continue, in my opinion, to go up because they're going to still raise interest rates. For the Federal Reserve, I think they have an interest rate coming up here soon. Here in actually 5 days, they have an interest rate decision, and there is a 87% that they're going to raise rates again another quarter basis point, which is going to increase interest rates, which is going to increase how much housing costs, which is going to create more inventory because more people are putting houses on the market and there's less people that can buy it because it costs too much, right? So the bottom line is inventory is probably your best bet when it comes to one-stop shop to determining whether the more inventory you have, we're in a seller's market, or basically a buyer's market, more inventory. Seller's market is less inventory. All right, next question is from Avi. Looking for some advice on how to work with a bank during a foreclosure. Now that's a very it's a broad question because working with a bank. So what essentially we do is, so we know, banks hire trustees and trustees handle the foreclosure process, but the banks are pretty much out of it. So there's a couple things we can do with this trustee, and the trustee handles all the fees, handles the servicing of all the, the documents, and make sure all the notices are posted correctly per the law in that particular state, if it's a foreclosure or a trustee state. So they have to do everything legit to be able to make sure that foreclosure process does not get overturned or stopped because something was done incorrect. So most banks hire a servicing company or a foreclosure company or a trustee that will handle that process of the foreclosure. So essentially, we're dealing with them. So there's a couple different things. To stop a foreclosure, to get you more time, you can request more time because you're an escrow under contract to purchase the property. That's number one, right? And they will potentially give you more time. They don't have to. And what they do is you might do a request, and if the foreclosure is next week, they might delay it all the way down till next week and then just take it to foreclosure and you're screwed. The second way to stop a foreclosure is if the seller files bankruptcy. And if they file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, it will stop the sale. Now, we have had, and how I learned this is there is a seller who filed bankruptcy and stopped the sale, and we were able to buy the property because they filed the bankruptcy, it stopped the sale, and before their first court date was like 30 to 45 days later. What they did was we contracted with them. They dismissed the bankruptcy, and then we found a buyer, closed the transaction, double escrowed. They got paid their money, and they were done. They didn't actually have to do the bankruptcy, or actually the bankruptcy still stood, but they just dismissed the bankruptcy before their first meeting. Now, obviously, I don't suggest that for everybody. It just depends on the situation. Depends on depending on if the bank is going to give you time or not. The last foreclosure we did, we requested it from the bank, and the bank gave us the time to be able to close the transaction, and it was a good deal. Now, I believe there's a ton of more foreclosures coming down the pipeline with everything that's going on. All right, last one right here. Last question again from Avi. When trying to dial in the metrics to watch on a weekly and monthly basis, what criteria do you use to determine when to mark a prospect into a lead? So first off, how we categorize leads is we have either viable or we have non-viable. So the question becomes now, what is non-viable? And then all the non-viable will give us everything else that's viable. And if they're viable, it's a lead. Okay. So if we're going to give someone 20 leads a week, that includes viable and non-viable, because as a company, we can't control that. So we can control our viability percentage, and we work to get our viability percentage. So we initially started marketing nationwide. Our viability percentage was about 55%. As we worked through our campaign and through more seasoning and by tweaking, now our viability percentage is upwards to 77% viability. So we give a rep 20 leads a week, and out of those 20 leads a week, that includes viable and non-viable leads. Okay, so back to the question. What's non-viable leads? Non-viable leads are wholesalers. There's properties listed. There's property wholesaler. What else you got? Spam leads that come in, or in the middle of nowhere that you can't do absolutely nothing with. Okay. So you pull up a map and it's in the middle of a forest and it's away from everybody. That's the middle of nowhere. You can't do anything with. That would be considered non-viable lead. So those are non-viable leads. Everything else is viable. And then they can work those leads and attempt to work with those to get those closed. So that is the last question. Boy, there's a lot of questions. It covered a lot of bases. So I hope this helped. We're going to do a lot more questions. If you want to become a member or learn how to become a member, either of our product suites that we have, go and click the link below for Bear Market Millions. Watch the training that we did. We talk about how to do deals in a recession, how to do deals nationally. We share with you a 7-step process to go out and do deals. And if you want to become a mastermind member, you can apply below. You actually can come to my office to do deals directly with my team. And if you're a 6-figure syndicate, that's when when you're a solopreneur, you want to build it to an actual business. And it takes, understanding your P&Ls. It takes understanding your metrics in a business, what drives the bottom line. We talk about hiring, company structure, payroll structure, the whole entire thing. All you got to do is click the link below. You can apply there. And you can we want to make sure you're a right fit to be part of the mastermind. All right, so that's it for this right here. Thank you so much. Hit the like and subscribe button if you could, and I will see you in the next video. God bless.
I can't take no loss. Yeah. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground and it go off. Yeah, hit the ground and it go off. Yeah, run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time. Think it's my year. Yeah. I really feel it's my time. Think it's my year. Yeah. I really feel it's my time. Think it's my year.